that joins late. Anyone that joins late can jump into the recording from our website once it's uploaded there. So welcome, everyone, to our Thursday L&D Showcase. As we showcase successful programs within one of our federal agencies that have been nominated for or was awarded the TOC 25 award for great programs, personnel within our federal agencies as we develop our employees across the board. As a reminder of who we are and what we do, Training Officers Consortium, we believe in community, and our vision is to span multiple federal agencies as well as our academia and industry partners to come together, share those best practices, share those baselines, and then learn from each other as we continue to grow and develop our own agencies within the realm of learning and development. And how we do that is by providing our professional development program. And this year, our professional development program includes matching up each one of our webinars, showcases, and events at the summits and events throughout the year with the ATD capability model. We continue growing that learning community and reinforcing and strengthening our TOC community and federal L&D industry and academia community through these best practices, through these social gatherings, through these events, and a lot of our discussions. And we welcome input across the board. And we hope to continue to provide this type of program throughout each year as we continue to move forward. With that being said, a little bit more specifics on each of our programs, program areas. So we have our Growth Guild, which are 60 to 90-minute webinars, which occur the first Tuesday of every month from 11 to 12:30. And then our L&D showcases, in which we're showcasing what we're doing today, one of those programs within one of our federal agencies. And those also occur starting at 11 a.m., but on every third Thursday of the month. And those two items, those two areas are part of our free to the public, available on our Training Officers Consortium website that Amy is going to go ahead and post in the chat shortly. Our paid items, for those of you that register for either the program year or the program year, including the summit, includes our solution sessions, in which this year we're going to be doing a deep dive into Disrupt Everything and Win by Patrick Ledden and James Patterson under Covey. We'll have other events going on this year, such as a federal version of a Train the Trainer or certification course, in addition to other items we're going to try and bring on board throughout our 26-27 program year. And for those last two items, those will be part of the paid registration. With that being said, on registrations are open. They have been open. They will continue to be open, as you can see here from our website. Our normal registration access, which gives you access to our webpage, portal access, our webinars, webinar recordings, $149 a year. You'll be able to register for any of the events that we post there. And if you go to our events page, you'll see that it is filling up fast with a lot of things that we're pushing out there throughout the year. Registration and Summit, $398, that gives you access not just only to what we have in our portal, but also attendance at our summit, which is going to be held this year in Philly. If you just want that summit only, then it's that $495 price. And I know there's an increase in that because as we get closer and closer to the summit, people aren't registering early enough, then that $495 price will get you that summit access, especially that last minute. And as a reminder, with our summit, in years past, those of you that have been part of TOC for years, or if not decades, because we did start in 1938, this year's summit and this year's registration cost does not include lodging. So we would love for you, thank you, Amy, we'd love for you to meet us in Philly to join us in this fully curated session, as you can see here. It officially begins on August 7th, which is a Friday. However, for those of you that are coming in the night before and you are going to take advantage of our reduced cost and lodging, which Amy has put that in our the booking link in our chat, we have an event the night before the summit officially kicks off with our Taste of Philly and welcome reception. And our welcome receptions are always a good time. Any one of you that's been to one of our welcome receptions for the summit, TOC AI, TOC 25, you understand how we like to enjoy ourselves before we kick off the next morning with breakfast and our ceremonies. We have a number of keynotes. We have our panels. And we also have something new this year, which we're doing TOC Sparks. So those of you that are familiar with TED Talks, this is similar to that, in which we're going to have about 3 individuals come up and give a 10-minute talk on something new and innovative for us to take hold of and apply within our own agencies from that particular spark. And then we'll have table talks, several tables throughout the venue, where you'll be facilitated through a challenge or a topic. And then we'll have our closing keynote. So it's going to be a awesome event in Philly. I highly recommend you guys go sign up in the registration and join us there. Exactly, Gary. Yeah, the Taste of Philly welcome reception. The food is going to be phenomenal. And it's a great time, great event for us to network and see how everything's going. Additionally, this year, we want to remind you, TOC 25 award, Annual Distinguished Service Awards class, as you've seen our L&D showcase, as I stated, I'm pulling from those Distinguished Service Awards members, as well as those that were nominated and had high scores to do their showcases throughout this program year. The TOC 26 awards showcase nominations are still open, and they close on June 23rd. So if you have an outstanding or exceptional program, initiative, or professional who exemplifies excellence in the field of learning and development, please nominate them. If you believe you are one of those individuals or you manage one of those programs, please self-nominate in one of these 4 categories listed here: leadership and organizational transformation, learning design and delivery excellence, knowledge management and organizational learning, and excellence in workforce impact. So please, it is on our website. Just go in. Once you hit our TOC website, there'll be a link for you to click on submitting that award nomination. Any questions so far? I see I have my TOC fellow members in there jumping in, adding stuff in. Great, wonderful, love it. As we move forward to what is on the horizon as far as our Growth Guilds and L&D Showcase. So next month, July 7, is our next Growth Guild, Command and Communicate Techniques to Inspire and Influence in the Federal Space, with Kelly Bergertsberg and Nancy Singer. As you can see here, there's a lot of great information they're going to be showcasing next month in that topic area. For our Learning and Development Showcase, HUD is going to be returning for the SES Readiness Program, and Robin Talmadge is going to be discussing that aspect and how it has benefited their agency and what we can take back from that as well within our own agencies. And without further ado, and real quick, I just realized I did not introduce myself, and I do see that there are a few new people. My name is Joy Watkins. I am TOC's content chair for the professional development program, and I'll be our content chair for the next, I believe I was told, the next 2 years. So I enjoy doing it. I love doing it. It's where my passion is. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin Lundeen, who is going to be going over a facilitator certification course on a $0 budget. He comes over to us from the Department of Defense Information Systems Agency, where he is a program coordinator for the Facilitator Training and Workshop Development Program. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to let Kevin take over. And just for awareness, he does not have access to a webcam, so we will just be able to see his slides and his name. Kevin, over to you. And Kevin, you are muted if you're speaking.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me now? Just throw a thumbs up icon reaction on the screen. Awesome. And then can I get one more thumbs up if you can see the slides that I'm sharing? Awesome. Okay, cool. All right. So I just want to start by saying, like, my actual job title is Professional Skills Development Specialist. I'll tell you, I'm not the biggest fan of that title. I think it's kind of nebulous. One that I prefer is Learning and Performance Specialist, and you'll see why as we begin this chat. As we get started, just if you could, I'm going to ask a question here in a second. If you've ever had this experience, and if you have, give me a thumbs up. And that question is very easily, have you ever participated in employer provided training and counted the minutes till you could leave? Awesome. Yeah, I have too. Have you ever thought that there was value in training or the training, but wished it was delivered in a more impactful way? Are any of you in the same financial situation I am with my employer, that there is no money for training and development? Appreciate that. See you there. All right.
Kevin, is there a thumbs down on that one?
I don't know if you have funding available. God bless you, but I'm not in that boat. Um, so this is facilitator certification course can be viewed as a case study in building internal learning capability with limited resources, a clear performance need, and a focus on workplace transfer. Sorry, I just had to jump through the slides a little bit. I know a lot of people like to tout their credentials and everything. I'm not going to bother you with it. If you are interested in knowing about my background, I dropped a little bio in the chat. Feel free to cruise through it later. I've got our little roadmap here, but basically in our discussion, I'll explain why the Facilitator Training and Workshop Development Program was created. That's a mouthful, so I'm just going to abbreviate that to FTD. And how the Facilitator Certification course, which is one of the components, again, I'll call that the FCC. So how FCC Level 1 was designed, how candidates are assessed, and what the data shows us about the value and strategic alignment. I am a big believer in avoiding death by PowerPoint. So if at any time you have a question, uh, feel free to hop in the chat or use the raise hand. I want to make sure anyone has a chance to speak and not be spoken over. So do that. We'll get you a chance there to talk. And then this should be more of a discussion, not a lecture. Okay. Any questions about what we're going to chat about? All right, let's jump into it. So the background of the FTD, the FTD originated from the Federal Employee Viewpoint Surveys. We've all heard of the FEVs. We've received some in the past. We've received some feedback from different staff and leadership, as well as observations from our own division about training. The FEVs indicated a lot of dissatisfaction with one-sided lecture-based training. There was requests for support, and they poured in from across the agency, and not just supervisors or leadership, but your everyday non-supervisory staff saying, hey, nicely put, training sucks, it needs to be better. So senior leadership's unofficial mandate to the Workforce Development Division was to just simply make training better. On top of that, several of the staff in our division are ATD designated master trainers, and they also expressed the need to change. So as a result, the FTD was born. Now I know Joy said she's the chair for the content for TOC, but Joy is also my supervisor. And for me to kind of figure out the guardrails here, we took a few meetings just to kind of determine what the specific performance gaps were, set the framework for the program, and what those goals might be. This brought us to 3 points, to which you're going to see here on the screen. The first one is to provide instruction and feedback that establish a clear standard of practice, essentially professionalize in a way how training is created and delivered to the workforce. Secondly, to provide individuals with facilitation skills grounded in adult education, instructional systems design, adult learning theory, and so on. And then the last piece is to support DISA organizations and programs by actually doing it, not just telling people, but doing it, modeling the behavior, and supporting the agency like that. Are any of you, again, just a quick thumbs up or not, if you are visual people, you intake information better visually? All right. Well, here's a little little snapshot of what all the FTD does. We have 3 levels to the facilitator certification course. We have a community of practice. We actually design, deliver, and evaluate training. We also have a small course catalog. And then we've also created e-learning for supervisory training. The goals for the facilitator certification course, and when I'm looking at the FCC, just a second ago, I showed you there's 3 levels to it. In this chat, we're really just focused on the first one. So big picture, what we're looking to achieve with the FCC is the learning outcome. What the participants should be able to do as a result of training and by the conclusion of training. Basically, demonstrate adult learning principles, effective facilitation techniques, and then to ensure a good learning environment so they can apply these skills in learning environments, briefings, presentations, so that way our participants actually absorb new information, can demonstrate skills, and apply them on the job. If you're a Kirkpatrick fan, that's level 3. We broke that down into some course goals. I'm not going to read all those to you, but we're just starting out with the outcome, break it down into learning goals, and then throughout the course, we break down those learning goals into specific learning objectives. When it came to designing the FCC, we took in a lot of information, which I'm sure is pretty familiar to most of you. What we've got there, we're rolling in Knowles with andragogy and how
You lost your
adults
slide?
learn differently. You lost the slide?
Yep, I see your background screen. Did you do that?
Well, thank you for telling me that.
There we go.
We have it now?
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you. So we rolled in a bit of andragogy, right? Adults learn differently than children. Children are often compared to, an empty cup where you have to pour the knowledge in because they don't have experience, or whether in life or in school or in work. So you have to pour that into them with that cup. Whereas in contrast with an adult learner, they already have life experiences, work experiences, academic experiences. So they already bring meaningful experience to that learning environment. We believe in experiential learning, not just a lecture, not just go write something, but actually being involved in the learning process. And all of the course is geared towards on the job performance. And with that in mind, there is no exam per se that's like a written exam. It's a performance exam. Either the person has learned information and skills and can demonstrate that, or they didn't. Next, we cover Addy in the course model, but we also demonstrate it each week. You see my little call out at the bottom. We practice what we preach. In real time, we're demonstrating the knowledge and skills that we're teaching within the learning environment. We also roll in a bit of Bloom's taxonomy and Gagne's 9 events of instruction. Again, I'm sure most of you are already familiar with this. I'm going to move on, and I want to discuss the curriculum for a bit. It's a blended curriculum. So we have some synchronous training. So each week there is a in-person component, which lasts about 2 to 2.5 hours, depending on who the facilitator is. Maybe they're a little long-winded, 3 hours. But it has that live component to it. There is outside learning activities, the asynchronous assignments. So the participants might have to read something, they might have to write something, they might have to take a quiz. All of these are built in. And then we get into the curriculum for each week. So the facilitator's role, we kind of break that out from being a trainer and a facilitator. So again, I don't really want to focus on a one-sided chat here. So I'm switching over to our window, just in the chat box, throw in there for me, what is your opinion in the difference between facilitation and training, or facilitating learning and being a trainer? Dwayne, I see interactive engagement. Yep. One to many, one to many versus many to one. Okay. Offered. Amy, I see, says facilitating learning is learning from wisdom in the room. Assistance offered. Case use to help drill down the learning. All of these are great responses. And what we cover in the first week of the course is facilitation, or the facilitator's role. A facilitator supports learning. A facilitator is the catalyst to learning, not necessarily the directive, authoritative source. In week 2, we cover communication skills, and our participants define communication. They examine the communication process and a model. They identify common barriers, as well as some effective techniques at overcoming barriers. All of this is geared towards how to facilitate learning within an environment, whether it's a virtual environment like we're in today, or if they're in a traditional learning environment like a classroom. Moving into week 3, now that we've set the baseline of what facilitation is and how to communicate in a facilitation way, we talk about adult learning theory, how adults take in new information through the lens of their lived experiences. Moving into week 4, now that they know how adults learn, we teach our candidates how to structure learning, how to create learning and design it systematically with a purpose to facilitate the learning for the candidate. So in week 4, we covered basic ISD items such as the ADDIE model, and then exactly how to create or how to perform a training needs analysis, as well as additional topics like Major's model, Bloom's taxonomy, and different lesson planning tools, so that way our candidates can get to their final project, which is to actually create a lesson plan and then facilitate that lesson plan in both a classroom environment and on Teams. Week 5, we transition from how they learn to setting up learning to kind of more of like the development phase of ADDIE, where we're looking at instructional media and practice. This also includes the ethical use of media. But we start with how our candidates are going to select the media, make sure that media is directly aligned to the learning goal or learning objective, as well as to reduce extraneous cognitive load. For example, don't just throw a pretty picture on the slide because it's there, but can be distracting for the participant or takes away from what the participant should be learning. We also cover copyright, so there's the ethical piece, right? And the reason why we cover that is we want to make sure that there's no copyright infringement, to protect both the facilitator and the agency from any potential litigation. Week 6, we go a little bit further. So now, again, we've covered what facilitation is, how to communicate in a facilitation manner, and then we talk about how adults learn. We're moving through, we've structured learning. Now we need to evaluate that learning. So we introduce them to the Kirkpatrick model, how to give and receive feedback, and then some different questioning techniques, which also, kind of reach back to facilitating learning from week 1, but it also ties into evaluation. We use a acronym FOID, which is 4 types of questions: a fact-based question, an opinion-based question, a importance type question, or something that they would do, D for do. So FOID, fact, opinion, importance, do. Week 7, we transition. So weeks 1 through 4 and 5, we're setting the baseline. Week 6, we're covering evaluation. They're also doing rehearsals of their lesson plans. And then in week 7, they actually have their performance exam. So in week 7, we get all of the candidates together in a training room. They facilitate the lesson plan that they've designed and in the training room. And then in the following day, they also facilitate that same exact lesson plan via Microsoft Teams. So that way our candidates are capable of delivering training or a presentation in either means. We roll up the course with week 8 being the Facilitator Lifelong Learning. We cover areas in which a facilitator can continue to grow with their skills, whether it's opportunities here within the agency or with external organizations. We do also cover how the TOC in what the TOC does, how it can support an individual's learning and growth. We cover ATD, a few other organizations. We also introduce them to our community of practice, so that way it's not just a one and done learning experience, but sustained growth and performance as a facilitator. All right. Any questions so far?
Kevin, I think you could just highlight when they do their performance exams. I noted in chat that they're not in the room, the training room, giving their virtual version. They actually go to a separate conference room so that
Okay.
they're not within the room, which adds that additional piece of how that is different.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, Joy. So we have a few conference rooms here at DISA headquarters. I'm at Fort Meade, Maryland. Because I want to ensure that folks are best able to deliver training via a virtual method, such as Teams. The course is designed to mirror their on the job performance to the greatest extent possible in the learning environment. So to do that, the candidate or the participant, either way you'd like to call them, but our candidate will go to a conference room where they're seated, and then they have to deliver their training exactly as they would on the job. And all of the other participants, their peers, are in another training room. And then that's how they deliver the session. They still use a headset or a microphone, a camera, um, run through slides if they're using slides. We do not require them to use media, but we teach them how to if they should desire so. And then afterwards, I get a little debrief after their performance exam. Does that answer your question there, Joy?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Gail, I saw your question there to please describe the D in FOID again. That's D-O, something you want your audience to do, to whether it's to draw something, if it is to write something, small breakout groups, perhaps go through a case study. It's all about like we saw a little bit earlier with Kolb, experiential learning, to draw them in to the learning experience and have them participate in it. Does that answer your question? Awesome. Thanks. All right. I want to discuss a little bit about some of the resources and the constraints that we have for the course. We're at a good spot in the course now or a good time in the course where we had our initial course design. We've had some changes in our operating environment, so we're going through a bit of a redesign phase. So I'll start with the resources that we had. The resources we had next to no qualified people to teach the course. So we had to look around the agency and within our division, see folks who already had those ATD master trainer credentials, as well as others who have experience. We evaluated them with a rubric to see that they understood how to do the training. So we credentialed them, and then we started running this course and credentialing new DISA certified facilitators. We had no LMS at the time that we started this course. Nothing. All we had was a course registration system, which was nothing more than a souped up access database. So to run this class and deliver it for our folks, we had to make up our own makeshift LMS. We constructed it out of Microsoft Outlook, Teams, Forms, and Excel, all just to kind of deliver an optimal learning experience for the participants. We pulled in open educational resources, and those are like textbooks that you can find online that have no additional cost or no cost period. We had a contract with Skillsoft, specifically Percipio, where there was books in there. So instead of writing a textbook or having to invent new things, we just curated some learning materials, some books that were already available, and linked those out for our participants. We also had some different scholarly journals and books and textbooks and professional references. So we pulled all this in and again at zero cost to the agency. And then additional resources was actually connecting. I say resources because labor hours in itself is a resource, connecting our participants with the facilitator cadre, even outside of the class, to support their learning. On the right-hand side of the screen, again, there was no LMS available. We had no virtual training platform such as Blackboard. We had a $0 program budget, limited facilitator cadre, and manual cohort administration. And what I mean by that is manually on spreadsheets, making sure people attended the class, recording grades, and giving them that best experience. However, we've had, as I mentioned, a change in our operating environment. So far, since March of 2023 is when we started this course, we have graduated 44 DISA certified facilitators over 7 cohorts. Those facilitators that we graduate, almost every one of them comes back to lead one of these weekly sessions for the next cohort. So it really reduces the administrative burden on myself or any of my colleagues to get out there and facilitate a session for the week. Some feedback we've received from our course candidates is that they wish they had a textbook. They wish they had like one source instead of having to jump around. So I started writing a textbook for them. Since Joy's my supervisor, I'll say it's mostly done. It actually is. And we instead of having the participants jump around with curated materials, I'm just kind of synthesized it to support the curriculum that already exists. Didn't need to change the curriculum, but just consolidate and synthesize the information in one place for them. We now have a new learning management system, which we have dubbed the DISA Virtual Campus. You'll see it below it. It's abbreviated to DVC. So the participants will sign up for the training in the DVC. They'll complete their asynchronous activities in the DVC. They'll submit assignments in the DVC. And it really makes it a little bit smoother and easier, more like a one-stop shop for them. And we're also including within there, one of our resources is Articulate 360, which we're embedding in the redesign. So that way we can include videos. In fact, I have a storyboard right now to change the week 5 content for instructional media and ethical use of it to be a video lesson housed within the learning management system. That way they get a little break halfway through the course, so they don't have to sit through the class. Current constraints, still, we have a $0 budget for the program. I cannot assign any cost to the participants. Like I can't say, go out and buy this book because this is what's going to help you. So we have to stay with that $0 constraint. Labor hours remain the primary cost, and the labor hours come from both the participants going through the training as well as the facilitators delivering the training. Because we're using the LMS now, It has to be sustainable, so we have to be able to update it. It also has to be accessible, so that's like the 508 Section 508 requirements, the WCAG guidelines, and it's scalable, so we can reach more people using that LMS. Also, the course itself and all of the materials must align with big government's requirements, DoD and DISA regulations. So that way we're all on the right pace. So there's governance and then compliance with it. But the big picture is the FCC uses in it that improved delivery model to support the participants no matter where they're at. And we're also going to have a virtual FCC next year. So no matter where someone is, whether they're here on the East Coast or they're out in Arizona or Hawaii, we'll be able to deliver this class to DISA staff no matter where they're at. Last couple things I'm going to chat on, because I feel like I've been speaking forever, is we'll talk about how we're assessing learning. We're all familiar with Kirkpatrick and doing the smile sheets and did you like the training? Did it feel good? Was the environment nice? That's nice. But can the participants actually do what we want them to do after training? So we have both formative and summative assessments. Those formative assessments take shape with written papers or essays in the first 2 weeks, because it's hard to assess whether or not a participant understands the difference between facilitation and lectures. So we get them to articulate themselves on paper. It's graded by a rubric. Some quizzes during the course with feedback for correct and incorrect answers. In my opinion, the quiz is more so for them than it is for us. And then along with that, you have to have feedback, right? It's not enough to say, "Hey, great job," give them that thumbs up or the proverbial pat on the back, but you have to tell them if they did well, why they did well, like what was good about it, and then also if there was room for improvement, what improvement is necessary, and how they can improve it. So it's all baked into this 8-week course. And on that note, since I said 8 weeks, it's not 8 weeks every day. It's one afternoon, some out of class activities, and then that's what we do for each of those 8 weeks. The summative assessment is the lesson plan that they're going to create. It is the in classroom delivery of the lesson plan that they've created and the virtual delivery of their lesson plan. Those 3 items alone are worth 60% of their overall course score. So that's where we really focus their efforts. Kirkpatrick levels 1 through 4. I know Joy mentioned evaluating training earlier. We kind of tie this in. We try to be the model for what other people are doing in the agency to shift from lecture-based statutory compliance type training to an actual learning event. So if we look at level 4, which is where we all start, right? We care about the outcome. Like I said earlier, we graduated 44 facilitators since March of 2023, and where the organizational impact comes into play. Our FCC graduates have contributed to the new employee orientation. So there's a lot of improvements there, to the security briefings within the agency, to the HR training, to the supervisory training for the agency, as well as the insider threat awareness training. So as I'm sure you could agree, things like new employee orientation, your annual security briefing, perhaps that insider threat, that can be kind of a boring, dry type presentation. Our graduates have gone out and made it more engaging, more interactive. They've received very positive feedback, both through their end of course surveys, as well as seeing a reduced amount of things that they're involved, like HR type stuff, like the stuff nobody really wants to deal with. So that's a good thing. Moving down to level 3, we've seen about 87% of our graduates report that, whether they're engaging in those briefings that I mentioned a moment ago, they're actually leading meetings briefings, presentations, or learning events. And again, out of our population of those 44, through our learning assessments, whether it's the performance exam, the papers, whatever, 91% have achieved their objectives and 90% can apply their KSAs, the knowledge, skills, abilities. And then the last piece, this is that smile sheet I mentioned a moment ago. Over 90% of them say they like the course, they like the facilitator cadre, and they like the learning materials. So I mentioned a moment ago, hey, we'd really like to have a textbook. Okay, that's cool. We'll get there. But with everything we've given them up to this point, they've enjoyed it. So that textbook I mentioned is just like a small refinement. But what going on with what this means? What does it do? So our director, Lieutenant General Stanton, has issued 4 priorities for DISA. A couple of them we connect with directly here with readiness, where we're preparing our people to actually do the job that they have. So we are a combat support agency, and I always think, how do I connect to that warfighter? How am I helping that person? Well, what I do is I prepare others to exercise their job, whether they're a cyber defender, if they're an HR specialist, if they're a facilities person. If I make them better at their job, I make it easier for them to provide service to that workfighter. Additionally, one of his priorities is continuous modernization. No course has existed in DISA like this ever. This is the only blended learning course within DISA. We're using the DISA Virtual Campus, our LMS. We're baking in asynchronous learning activities, standardizing learning experiences, and moving things towards the future. And then our last piece there is part of our strategic goal, and is to support the upskilling, reskilling, and professional development of the agency. So I'm going to stop talking here. I've been running my mouth for a while. What are your questions?
Real quick, Kevin, thank you so much for providing this. The chat was blowing up with a lot of questions, and I went through and I answered as many as I could. One of the last things that Kevin noted was that the FCC is the only of its type with the blended learning. But ever since we launched it, we've had people from across the organization, across the agency, in various aspects of DISA that have attended to become facilitators. We have in our acquisition workforce, we have an individual that did provide training, attended our FCC, became an FCC level 1 certified, and his training has improved in what he provides to our acquisition workforce. In addition to our cyber side, they've gone through and seen what we've done with FCC, the capabilities and what we have with the LMS. They've now created one course specifically for their cyber service providers that goes to that blended learning approach, utilizing andragogy. And they're currently building another one for the real-time analysts with that same process. So they're hitting levels 1 through 3 because of what they do directly for the warfighter, where we provide that assistance indirectly. And I think one of the key questions that was asked by more than one person is, how do we get into DISA's FCC? Currently, we don't have the logistics in place to do that, or the permission at this time to bring external entities on board. The security involved with that, because this is special, and some of the things that we do. So we do have some logistical hurdles we would have to maneuver through to make that happen. But TOC itself, we know that there are other agencies across our TOC community that do a train the trainer or do a facilitator course within their organizations. And what our goal is this year is to pull that information and pull those resources and pull that passion across the community to build our own that we provide for the feds within the TOC and move that forward. And we are very excited about that. And that's going to be for our paid registrants within the TOC community. And as Kevin said, are there any additional questions that you'd like to ask Kevin specifically regarding the FCC and the FTD as a whole, and how we go about in providing those additional needs for the agency that's not just facilitator certification course? If I can see anyone's hands, if you want to unmute, if you want to add in chat.
Joy, I just wanted to weigh in real quick. Kevin, one thing that really struck me, and I think a lot of folks that are on the operations side find it difficult to do exactly what you said. And, how do you work with a warfighter? How are you impacting what they do? How are you impacting the mission at DISA? And I really like how you put that in there and aligning that with the mission. You're here because this is our mission, but what I'm facilitating for you, what you're learning is going to help you do your job better. How does that impact kind of the takeaways from the participants in your classes?
Thanks for the question. And I'd say what the most people have told me is that they go back, and because of what they've learned with instructional design, how to better project plan within their office. Whether there's a new requirement, we handled one not long ago for classified devices, like classified mobile devices specifically. So it's how they plan out a project to do something new or improve it, where they take that analysis, they design a framework of what they're going to do, then they make it tangible, and then they go back and evaluate their effort to see if they actually solve the problem. So, instructional design is very similar to project management. And so we've heard a lot of responses like that, as well as when they're exercising, or they're doing something for the warfighter, or they got to give a presentation, like do's and don'ts, or for example, they find it that they're receiving less trouble tickets because of how they've communicated the information.
Great, thank you so much. And I know Tony has a question.
Yes, I'm Tony Myers from USDA. I'm new to talk, and I'm very interested in becoming a certified facilitator. Is there any other agencies that has a program similar to what DISA has? And if so, how do new folks like myself access those training abilities to become a facilitator? And also, can we host, if this is very secure, which I know it is, can we host something at USDA to give light to what this is doing regarding the FCC and the training? And I'm done. Thank you.
So Tony, I can touch on a little bit of that. I know we have down the street from us, we have the Defense Information School. They have I don't remember exactly. Oh, it's an instructor training course. They call it ITC. So they have one there as well. It's about 15 days, if I remember correctly. And that's an all-day, 15-day course. So it's a little different than what we have, but the material is essentially the same. And then from there, if DISA can, meet you there at USDA, that's a great question. I do not feel empowered to say yes or no to that. I would highly encourage you to connect. I did tell you my supervisor is Joy. Feel free to connect with her after this and see if that's something we can work out.
And one of the things I put into chat, because I had Dwayne asked a similar question. We're actually building within TOC. We're going to be building a facilitator, train the trainer type of course, and we're going to be pulling information from our TOC community partners that have these types of courses We're going to try and reach out to other federal agencies that we know have these and see if they're willing to share their curricula, their lesson plan, their syllabus, and build one in-house that we can share across the Fed, where once we start providing that information, you guys can then turn around and take what we provide and the training that we provide and customize that specific to whether it's HUD or FDA or DCMA or a portion of DCMA. So that's something that's down the horizon for 26, 27, and I'm hoping for a launch around the fall timeframe. Fingers crossed that we continue working through October.
And our 26 program year starts on July 1st. So Joy's been working on that, and we do have a lot of courses already launched or programs, workshops up on our website. And I did drop our info@trainingofficers.org mailbox in the chat. And if your agency is doing something similar that you'd like to share with us, or if you're really interested in it and you'd like to bring it to your agency, have more questions, just send us an email, and we're diligently working behind the scenes on and creating all of the certification course. And one thing that if any of you have any ATD certifications that you need to maintain, TOC did receive certification credits. So any of our programs that we offer from today on out, they will go toward any of your ATD certifications that you need to maintain as well. So that's really exciting. The facilitator certification course will also be part of that. So we're really excited about getting that opportunity. And our summit also will be, some of the credits will go toward ATD certification credits if you need them to maintain any certifications. So thank you so much for those great questions.
For the individual agencies and components that have a train the trainer, when one of our colleagues within our own division here at DISA actually worked as an instructor at DINFOS, and through that information, through reaching out to DINFOS, we were actually able to get one of our employees into that DINFOS ITC course. So with some of these agencies, I think one of the great things that I love about a lot of our agencies is if you reach out to them, and if they have a program, if they have a seat, to get one person in might be pretty simple, pretty easy. It's just coordinating logistics in getting into their buildings, getting into their courses, getting into their network, and getting access to their courses. So that is definitely one avenue to attempt and to try, is reaching out to them directly, which is what we did for DINFOS. And we utilized, and Kevin utilized some of that information from DINFOS to help, adjust and add to what we have in the AFCC.
And Joy and Kevin, I know you've both responded in the chat to the questions, Jason's question about generative AI. Do you want to just weigh in verbally so everybody can, you can share some more information about that?
Kevin, do you want to take it, or do you want me to take it?
Sure, I can discuss it. So anyone that's within the Department of War, we all have access to Gen AI. It's supposed to include ChatGPT and Grok later, but as of right now, there's Google's Gemini. I use this on a near daily basis. One, for helping to develop curriculum, because I know a lot of it, but it's impossible to memorize all these textbooks. So I'm using it to help synthesize information from scholarly journals, textbooks, and other books to create curriculum. I'm also using it, well, let me take a stop there. Even though it's synthesizing it, it's helpful to actually know what's there in the first place, to know the material. AI is going to make mistakes. And so it's really important, even though AI spits something out for you, you need to go back, read through it, and make sure it's correct. So that's one way, curriculum development. Another piece is data analysis. I will almost never just build something to build it. There will always be some kind of data that supports my actions, because that's if we look at that from a bean counting feature, I can't just do something just to do it. It has to be aligned to mission. So we'll use it to analyze both quantitative and qualitative data to determine a performance gap. If there is a gap, and if that gap is something that training can solve, we'll start building it from there. So we'll use it in that regard. But on the other end of it, after every iteration of the course, we do an after action report. So those weekly smile sheets, that's one piece. But we take those level one and level two, excuse me, level one and level two surveys, as well as we delete the names from it, but how our people are performing. We feed that to Gen AI, and then we start asking it, what was the biggest barrier? So we start looking at where problems exist, and then we do a little bit further analysis on how we can either remove the barrier or make it less impactful. And one of those action items I mentioned a little bit earlier was they want a textbook. So it created a little bit extra work for me, but that's okay. We've figured out ways that we can improve the course delivery using that analysis from Gen AI. So we can do it ourselves, but it makes it a whole lot faster to use those AI tools available to us. Does that answer your question?
And I will add, when Kevin remarked about the textbook, before the DI executive orders that came out last year, we had access to the TD-BOK. So we were utilizing the TD-BOK as our textbook, because we had that within Percipio. But once those EOs came out, Percipio took it off because of the DEI content that's in there. And we no longer have access to use that within our agency. So now we have to, so Kevin, and based off of that information, Kevin is building a textbook within the agency. I hired good people. Well, actually, he was already here when I came on board, so I kept him.
Cheers.
All right, we got about 2 more minutes left. I'm loving the questions and the comments that are coming out. Does anyone have any additional questions before we close out? All right, I'm seeing no hands up. I'm seeing no new chats. I want to thank you guys for joining us today. Again, this recording will be available on the TOC's webpage. I'm glad this was helpful, and I'm glad you guys were able to chime in, and we were able to showcase what is coming down the road a little bit before we were ready to actually launch it. But again, please do reach out to us. Go to our webpage. If you need to reach out, if you want to ask Kevin additional questions, he put his bio in there. Kevin, is your contact information in the bio that you put in chat?
I just dropped our group email address in the chat.
Yeah.
There you go.
And I think that's the same email that we used for SEED, right? For the employee symposium, right?
Nope, that's a different email.
Oh, it's a different one. Oh, well, you guys this is doing a lot of really great things. So
we do. We try. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you next time. Again, the next event is going to be the first Tuesday of July with Kelly on communication. All right. Have a great and wonderful day and enjoy your weekend.
thanks, everyone. If you're still hanging on, don't forget to go to the website and check out the awards and also the summit coming up. Have a great day. Thanks, Joy and Kevin. Awesome.
Thank you.